As the reality of the ultimate sacrifice hits so close to home.
At our house, he is the villain.
Sometimes you just gotta use the right thing.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to That Voiceover Podcast, the show for and about the voiceover industry. I'm Stephen Cox. Craig DeSilva is probably best known for his work as the HBO promo voice of The Sopranos, but he enjoys an impressive and varied career that includes work in numerous movie trailers, narration, and hundreds of commercials for TV and radio. And in a truly exciting turn of events, Craig voice-matched a substantial portion of Brad Pitt's dialogue for the film Babel. So, Craig DeSilva, welcome to That Voiceover Podcast.
Thank you, Stephen. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. So you started out as a musician, and you still write music. How did you wind up getting into voiceover?
It's seemingly maybe an uninteresting story, but I had an agent by the name of Christine Wallace who was at Harry Gold years ago when Gold Marshak was a big agency. And I was working with her for a while, and then, she sort of had said to me, that she thought that I should maybe give it a shot to get into the voiceover aspect of the business because of my musical background as a singer-songwriter. I'd played many of the clubs here in LA and New York, Dark Star in New York and Bitter End, and interestingly odd places out here in Los Angeles. She was actually the enforcer for me to try and take a leap into voiceover because she felt it had many similar qualities for those of us that are musicians, where it deals with rhythms and tones and beats and measures oftentimes in your work in coordination with acting, so that's sort of how I jumped into it.
Did you do any special training once you got into voiceover, or did it just sort of come naturally?
I think part of it came as to all of us that are grateful and fortunate enough to make a living in this business. I think there is a natural talent for all of us that comes with it, but like any natural talent, you still have to hone your craft and your skills, and there's a lot more dynamics to doing voice work as opposed to just on-camera acting where you're blocking and physical. By no means am I saying that that's easier, but I am saying that there is a very, very different approach to it. You have nothing to depend on but your voice, so you really have to lift those words off the page, whereas in on-camera job you can really use your physicality and expressions very subtly to get the point across. Here you have no connection on a physical level with the audience, so you really have to be a master at learning how to make it as connected as possible without sounding kinetic or robotic.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you do as a practice to kind of keep your performances fresh, keep yourself connected?
I have there's a couple of areas that I in my lonesome time, or should I say practices that I do, one of which is I do a lot of articulation exercises because, aside from the training that I've had with some outstanding teachers, people like Jenny McSwain, and I could name half a dozen of them that I've trained with and in various areas. But the day-to-day stuff that I can help my craft with, I do these exercises in order for myself to get extremely articulate and clean with my enunciation and pronunciation, so stuff like that. There's I'm always reading copy. I've been involved with prose groups, which is in the industry, it's sort of a title that goes along with a bunch of industry pros that get together that are working professionals represented by any significant agents, and we just work copy sometimes once a week on maybe a Monday night for 3 hours, and I've been involved with those for years.
So I'm going to assume that the big gig that kind of really kicked things off for you in a major way was the promo voice of The Sopranos. How'd that gig come about?
That was an interesting thing, how that came about. I was actually over at a company called Pongo Productions in Los Angeles doing some syndication packages for Universal for their DVD collections on a couple of movies. Some of the Bubba Hotep, and some really just nothing significant, but just some interesting stuff and
Yeah.
Grinch stuff I had done for them. And there was a producer whom had flown out from New York City to LA and was actually doing a freelance job at Pongo, and I was in their sound booth recording some demos for the client for Universal. We would oftentimes scratch the projects before we would do the final scripts. And he was down the hall in another bay and overheard us because I think the editor had left the door open. It was one of those fortuitous situations. He came down the hall and he said, I know we're looking for somebody for the show in New York, and what I heard, I've been doing this a while for HBO, and he has been for a long time. And he passed my name on to Becca Shader and some significant producers over there, and that's history.
Did you get a sense when you were first starting to do this show that it was going to be such an iconic piece of pop culture history? Were you aware of that when you were starting out?
It's a funny question, Stefan, because I'm an American Italian, and I thought, this is either hit or miss. I wasn't sure. Did I think it was edgy and fantastic and definitely a road that television had not traveled down before? Absolutely. But was I sure it was a hit? Just from a layman audience member point of view, I wasn't sure because it could have gone either way, Could have been really well received, which gratefully it was, or it could have been a big insult to the Italian-American audience, which it has a large audience. But gratefully, it became a big hit.
And fortunately for you, too, in your career. Did it become something of a calling card for you for a while?
Absolutely. There were a lot of jobs that came, and still do, come. This is Sopranos has been off the air for a while, and I still get, I just got a job for Dateline, and it was because one of the producers over there was a fan of The Sopranos, and she wanted to know who would voice The Sopranos.
Now, let's talk about another big gig, and this is a little more recent for you, but you did, as I mentioned in the intro, a substantial amount of voice matching for Brad Pitt in the film Babel. That must have been just a tremendous experience. Tell us a little bit about that.
That was that was such a fantastic experience, and on so many different levels. But to not go off on a diatribe, the most exciting part of it was that I got to work with Alejandro, who was the director of the film.
And you're talking about Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu, who did Amores Paris and 21 Grams.
Correct.
Yeah.
A really talented young guy, actually, fairly young for his success. He's only 40 years old when we did Babel, and he actually had come from a music video background into the film world, but has an incredible eye and really great ear. And he had actually personally called William Morris when he had found out that what I had done was I had gone over to this company in Los Angeles called Ant Farm, and they were looking for someone to do the trailer and to do a voice match for Brad in the trailer, just for a very small section of an outtake from one of the film shots. So I did that. He obviously has to approve it, as do any directors in a movie. If you're the voice for the trailers for the movies, you are approved by the producers and directors of the film. So it's not just the studios.
So I just want to stop you there for a second. So this doesn't become too inside baseball for people in the voiceover industry who sort of know what's involved with doing a voice match. Tell us a little bit about exactly, technically, what you did when you were asked to fill in large parts of Brad Pitt's dialogue that, for whatever reason, was not going to be able to be usable.
What happens in a film is when an actor is asked to go in and do what they call ADR looping on their own voice, it's usually when the boom mic doesn't pick up. The boom mic is what is held above out of the frame of the lens to pick up the audio for the actors in a scene. When that mic does not pick up the audio, they have to go into a session which is called a looping session, or an ADR session rather. So when an actor is unavailable, and particularly someone on such a large scale as Brad Pitt is, his stardom is so big, he was already filming another movie in Africa at the time, and he was unavailable. As contracts go, once they're in, the last film is sort of SOL. unless they can voice match the person or wait till the person finishes the film that they're currently on to come back and do it, which is where I come in, or you come in, or any of us that voice match come in. So then I go into a studio, and I actually worked with a woman that was in some of the scenes. I don't work directly, obviously, with Kate Blanchett or the Spanish actress who plays the maid. I'm embarrassingly forgetting her name. But you are working to picture, but you have to match the performance. So it's not just matching the exact tone quality and where it fits and sits in the pocket of the voice, but you also must match the performance of the actor, which is really, like, you'd think it would be easy, particularly you, myself, a lot of us that do this day in and day out, but it's really not. And there's a lot of pressure under it. So you get to learn a lot of skills. You know, you're on a sound stage with a movie theater-sized movie screen, and you're acting to picture.
Are you working physically too, in sort of matching what the actor is doing on the screen to kind of get in the same space so you sound similar?
Yes, I was. Like, Alejandro was in the sound stage with me, but he's sitting in his director chair and just, you know, giving me direction after take, and like he would the actor on camera, Brad or whomever you're matching. And I use my body a lot in voice, whether it's a commercial, whether it's a promo, a trailer, whether it's, to picture for voice matching. Because I think that that's how I communicate in, for lack of a better expression, real life. Mm. I use my hands a lot. I use that. So why wouldn't I communicate like that off camera into a mic? It makes my performance that much more realistic for myself.
Now, did you attend the premiere?
I did not. I could have attended the premiere. I had a lot of stuff going on at the time, and those things are really interesting anyway. And you kind of have to sit back in the background, because as a ADR voice match person, the last thing anyone wants to know in the real world is that I matched Brad, because the general populace, my family included, although they were really, it's sort of their little hurrah for me. There's this level of disappointment when they know the real actor didn't do it. So you kind of stay in the background with that stuff. So for that and other reasons, I just was too busy to go.
So when you're watching the finished product, and I assume that you have, what's the sensation like seeing your voice come out of Brad Pitt's mouth?
This is going to sound a bit silly, but I couldn't tell where he came in and I came out. And that's a tribute not just to me. That's a collaborative tribute to the director, to all of us working together, the sound mix, the mixer, the sound editor, the sound guy, et cetera, et cetera. It's a weird experience, I found myself, the first time I ever was in a movie theater and I saw a trailer I did, that was a little more weird to me, because it's still a little bit unbelievable when I'm watching. Like, I've watched Babel since maybe once or twice. I haven't been a freak and watched it more than that, but it just doesn't still feel like it was me. I don't know how to if that makes any sense. I know I did it, but because it's kind of seamless, and they helped to make it seamless, by no means did I stand alone doing that. It just feels a little surreal.
Within the voiceover community, you're one of the people who I know who works most consistently. How do you keep the voiceover work coming in for you?
Here's what I do for myself. I don't always do this on a consistent basis, but when I feel like it's appropriate or it's right, or the energy feels right, that there needs to be some movement on my half to gain employment, I'll oftentimes look at the best way to market myself, whether that's like I'm moving to a new agency, so it's time to send out a electronic postcard, much like a regular postcard, but it's all done through email now, and I'll do, an email blast to all my producers that I've worked with. I have a good, strong relationship with producers, and I think that's something that just has to come naturally. You can't really force that. There are some that I don't, some that I never talk to again, and you just know it's just a job, and they may or may not use me again. But then the ones that I generally keep in contact with are the ones that I have standing relationships with. Like I'm on a new show. Well, it's not really new. It's new last season, but I'm doing investigation discovery, and I keep in contact with those producers or my HBO producers still, because blessedly, they're genuine people, and they really are loyal as I would be to them, and they've given me many opportunities. I've done several series for them. So I most recently did True Blood for them, and it's about maintaining friendships, because I really don't believe in the two-step shuffle at the cocktail party trying to kiss someone's ass. It really doesn't work. People don't like that, really.
Craig, I want to thank you for spending the time with us, and I wish you, as always, every continued success in all the stuff you're doing.
And you yourself are a fantastic talent, so
thank you, brother.
Clear why you work as well.
Thanks. That Voiceover Podcast is a co-production of Half Full and Get Creative, Inc. Thanks for listening. I'm Stephen Cox.